Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to cut through the noise, get those essential insights from the reports that, well, really matter.
And today, we're definitely digging into something critical.
We are. It's the 2026 Hyundai Nexo. Now, this is the second generation hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle, the FCEV.
Right.
But, we're not just talking about another SUV here. It feels more like, well, like a philosophical question wrapped up in sheet metal.
That's a good way to put it.
Because the reports we're looking at, they force you to ask, is hydrogen, really a viable player in this whole clean energy transition? Or is it kind of stuck, like forever a niche idea that badly are just going to squash?
And that's exactly what we need to figure out for you today. We've gone through the latest reports, the technical specs from this new Nexo launch, really trying to understand where FCEV tech stands right now.
So looking past the shiny exterior and the marketing, it's exactly, focusing on the facts. The pros are definitely there. You've got amazing range, super fast refueling. But the cons, well, they're stubborn. Infrastructure is still the big one, and how much energy it actually takes to make the hydrogen in the first place.
Right. And here's maybe the first big thing jumping out from the sources. This new Nexo, it's not really aimed at, your average car buyer. Not initially, anyway.
No, definitely not.
Hyundai is launching it pretty much exclusively to commercial fleets,
Yeah.
specific parts of Canada. It's positioned almost like a rolling laboratory,
Yeah,
refining the tech, not chasing mass market sales.
a test bed, essentially.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the core issue, the controversy, it isn't really about the tech and the car working. It's logistics. Plain and simple.
Right.
Hydrogen vehicles are just incredibly rare in Canada. And the main hurdle, the one everyone gets instinctively, is there's nowhere to fill them up reliably. Public infrastructure, or the lack of it, that's the fundamental roadblock. Yeah, you can't just pop into any gas station. But the argument against it financially, anyway, it starts way before the pump, doesn't it?
It does.
The sources really hammer this home. The hydrogen fuel itself has to be created, then it's got to be packaged, transported, and all of that takes a lot of energy, often, not renewable energy.
Hmm.
So this whole supply chain, it makes you wonder, what's the actual carbon footprint, the real energy cost, compared to just plugging an electric car into the grid, especially somewhere with lots of hydropower?
And that's where you see Hyundai playing the long game.
Yeah.
Their commitment here is,
Okay.
well, it's deep. They started FCEV research way back in 1998.
Wow, decades ago.
Yeah, nearly 3 decades.
Yeah.
And they seem willing to absorb that energy paradox cost you mentioned because they have a bigger picture in mind.
Okay.
They see the Nexo, yes, but it's part of this huge industrial vision they call HTWO. Think heavy logistics, big trucks, trains, even ships and aircraft. Places where sticking a massive battery just isn't practical because of weight or charging times.
So the Nexo is kind of like proving the core tech, the fuel cell stacks themselves.
Exactly. Proving they work, they're reliable, and then that tech scales up for those really heavy-duty applications later on.
Okay, that makes sense from an R&D angle. But let's bring it back to the business side for these fleets. If the Nexo is only going to specific spots, like Vancouver or near Toronto's airport where they can get fuel, how does Hyundai justify the price tag?
It's steep.
Yeah, the estimates are like 70,000 to 80,000 Canadian dollars. That's up there with high-end battery electrics and way more than a standard diesel van or truck.
Hmm.
Is that super fast refuel time really enough to make a fleet manager swallow that cost?
Productivity. That seems to be the key word they're banking on. For a commercial
Got it.
fleet, 5 minutes of vehicle downtime to refuel is massively cheaper than, say, several hours plugged into a charger.
Right. Time is money for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a premium price. It shows they're selling more than just transport. They're selling technology validation and that crucial uptime advantage.
Right. Okay, so let's get into how they've actually improved the machine itself to maybe justify some of that premium. Because the technical jumps in the second generation, they sound pretty significant. A real leap for FCEV engineering, actually.
They really are. The power numbers alone tell a story.
Yeah.
The total system output, that's from the upgraded fuel cell stack, it jumped pretty dramatically from 135 kilowatts in the old one
Okay.
to 190 kilowatts in this new 2026 model. That's a big increase.
And that translates to how it feels to drive, I assume. More
Yeah,
power means
better driving dynamics, yeah. The electric motor itself now puts out 150 kilowatts. That's about 201 horsepower and a decent 258 pound-feet of torque.
So it gets up and goes.
Much better. They cut the 0 to 100 kilometer per hour time down quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of sluggish at 9.2 seconds before. Now it's 7.8 seconds. Feels much more capable, merging onto a highway.
Definitely more respectable, but the real headline for FCEVs is always range, isn't it?
It is, and the projected number is huge, 826 kilometers.
Wow. 826?
Now, okay, got to add the caveat. That's using the WLTP standard, the European test cycle.
Yeah.
It tends to be, let's say, optimistic compared to North American EPA figures.
Sure, WLTP always gives bigger numbers, but still, that shows the potential. What about real-world tests?
Even those were really impressive. The reports we saw at test drives with a mix of driving, including highways, they were still getting somewhere between like 637 and 665 kilometers on a full tank.
Okay, that's still excellent. Over 600 kilometers in the real world is fantastic range.
That's where the tech really shines. And the efficiency gain comes from a few places. They slightly increased the hydrogen tank capacity at 6.69 kilograms now, up from 6.33.
Okay, holds a bit more fuel.
And the buffer battery, the small lithium-ion one, that also got bigger, 2.64 kilowatt hours versus 1.56 before. Helps with energy recapture and smoothing out power delivery.
Makes sense.
Plus, and this is important for places like Canada, they've addressed a big historical FCEV problem, cold weather.
Ah, yeah. Fuel cells in freezing temperatures haven't always mixed well.
Right. They've added this anti-freezing wake-up function. It's designed to make sure the system starts reliably even when it's really cold out. That's crucial for proving reliability, especially thinking about those bigger HTWO applications.
That antifreeze thing, that's actually a huge detail. We shouldn't just gloss over that. It shows they're solving fundamental roadblocks that hurt early fuel cells.
Absolutely. It tackles a major reliability concern head-on.
And then, of course, the metric that matters most to those fleets, the refill time.
Still just 5 minutes, maybe even a bit less, to get over 95% full.
So you combine that 600-plus kilometer real-world range with a 5-minute downtime. Suddenly, that $80,000 price tag starts to make a little more sense for a business focused on keeping vehicles moving.
That's the calculation they're hoping fleets will make.
Now, moving inside the vehicle. The sources suggest this isn't just some basic stripped-down science experiment. It sounds like it's actually...
Yeah. Shockingly refined is the term used in some reports. The interior quality, the materials, the build. Apparently, it's got faultless craftsmanship. Some even said it rivals Genesis, which is Hyundai's own luxury brand.
Rivals Genesis. Wow. Okay.
And again, that probably isn't an accident. If you're selling to fleets, driver comfort and retention matter. A high-quality, comfortable workspace helps.
Makes sense. They're not just buying a powertrain, they're buying the whole vehicle experience for their employees.
Exactly. So they focused on a really smooth ride, superior comfort, and keeping the cabin quiet. They're even using active noise control road tech, ANCR, which is like noise-canceling headphones for the entire car interior.
Okay, that's pretty advanced and practical stuff. Like, can you actually haul things in it?
Yeah, they didn't forget that. It's got almost 1,000 liters, 993 liters of cargo space behind the second row. That's really spacious for an SUV this size.
That is pretty huge. And the outside. Any interesting design bits?
It uses their Art of Steel design language. It's distinctive, maybe a bit of an 80s vibe, according to some. Unique details like these diagonal lines on the back pillar, the C pillar, apparently inspired by traditional Korean clothing.
Huh. Interesting touches. What about the tech inside? Screens and stuff?
It gets Hyundai's latest system. They call it the Connected Car Navigation Cockpit, or CCNC. Basically integrates two big 12.3-inch displays for the driver and infotainment.
Standard big screens, then.
Pretty much. There's a nice Bang & Olufsen 14-speaker sound system option, too. But what's maybe more technically interesting for fleets is the V2L function.
V2L, vehicle to load.
Exactly. Lets you plug in tools, laptops, other electronics, and power them directly from the car's high-voltage system. Could be really useful for mobile work crews.
Yeah, I can see that being a plus, turning the vehicle into a mobile power source.
And just to show the full potential, the European versions get even more features, like digital side mirror screens inside instead of mirrors outside, and they can even tow up to 1,000 kilograms.
1,000 kilos. So, small trailers.
Yeah, light utility trailers. Though that tech, like the digital mirrors, might not be approved for Canadian roads right away. Regulations need to catch up sometimes.
Always the way. Okay, so we've established it's technically advanced, powerful, comfortable, long range.
Yep, a technical success story in many
But
ways.
Now the reality check?
Now we pivot back to viability. Because as good as the Nexo might be as a vehicle, It runs smack into that infrastructure problem we mentioned earlier, especially in North America.
Right. Hyundai might sell thousands in Korea where they have more stations, but here.
Here, it's the opposite trend in some places. We're actually seeing hydrogen stations shutting down.
Yeah.
Quebec is a notable example. It makes the technology basically unusable, non-existent for an average person.
Which loops us back to that energy cost paradox. And honestly, this is the part that's really hard to ignore for passenger cars.
Hmm?
If the engineering number is roughly 55 kilowatt hours of electricity needed just to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen.
And that's a generally accepted figure, yeah.
Yeah. And you fill the Nexo's tank, which holds almost 7 kilograms. You do the math, that's like 350 kilowatt hours of electricity consumed just to make the fuel before it even gets transported or put in the car.
That conversion loss it's huge. It's the fundamental inefficiency in the current hydrogen production process for vehicles.
Right.
And it really highlights why, for just moving people around in cars, if you have access to grid electricity, a battery electric vehicle is just, well, it's currently a much more sensible path from a pure energy use perspective.
You skip that whole messy, energy-intensive conversion and transport step.
Entirely.
Yeah.
So the Nexo's excellence, its justification, it really gets confined to solving those specific fleet problems. The long range they need, zero tailpipe emissions in cities, and critically that 5-minute refuel. They're prioritizing productivity, uptime, over raw energy efficiency.
Okay. So let's try and wrap this up for you, the listener. The 2026 Nexo. It's clearly a very advanced vehicle, powerful, comfortable, impressive real-world range. Hyundai seems to have cracked some of the big technical challenges, cold weather, acceleration.
Definitely a serious technical achievement.
But its success, its viability right now, it feels totally disconnected from the North American consumer market. That energy paradox, the near-total lack of refueling infrastructure, it makes it basically a non-starter for individuals. Its strengths align purely with commercial fleet needs.
And what that tells us, really, is about Hyundai's strategy. They're operating on a much longer timeline. They seem ready for a hydrogen future, especially for those heavy transport sectors we talked about.
Trucks, trains, ships.
Yeah, they're ready, even if the rest of the world, particularly for average car buyers, just isn't there yet. Not even close in many places.
Which leaves us with a pretty interesting question for you to think about after this deep dive. If the technology already exists right now, today, to give a comfortable, practical SUV like the Nexo over 650 kilometers of real range and a 5-minute refill,
Which it clearly does.
should we maybe stop getting so hung up on the debate about hydrogen for our personal cars? Should we perhaps shift the focus entirely, put all the regulatory effort, the infrastructure investment into harnessing hydrogen's potential where it seems to make the most sense, revolutionizing heavy logistics, freight, marine transport, places where charging enormous batteries just isn't practical today and maybe won't be for a long time?
It's definitely something worth mulling over. Where does this technology truly fit best?